Sponsored by Gillette, the best a man can get.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolf. That's the Hall of Famer, Chris Carter. This is Nick Wright. Guys, I'm in a great mood today. Great mood. I just want to let you know, so do not bring me down. We have 3 hours together. It's going to be a lot of fun. What?
Put that on the board in the office. I'm in a great mood, so do not bring me down. I don't know about you suckers, but today's my last day of work this week. About to go on a little vacay. So let's have a good day, you sons of guns.
Not what I said.
Don't y'all screw it up for me.
Love you guys.
Okay.
We have a great show on this Thursday morning. Kevin Durant trying to prove he's the best in the world. This amid speculation that he and Kawhi could pair off in Brooklyn this summer. What am I missing behind me?
Nothing.
But we start with Durant's Warriors heading to Houston. All eyes will be on James Harden's eyes. Pun totally intended. The Beard suffered a lacerated eyelid in Game 2 on Tuesday. Bad news for Houston. They're down 0-2 in this series. Good news for Houston. Well, they expect Harden's vision to be fully clear by Saturday, as tests revealed no cornea damage. All right, CC, I'll start with you. What do the Rockets have to do to get back into this series now?
Well, there's a number of things that they have to do. The one thing I love about playoff basketball in the NBA is you have huge swings, typically from game 1 to 2, but none greater than from game 2 to game 3. Typically, well, because you have the higher seed, they have the momentum, they're a better team. But when you go back and you give that team a couple games to be able to adjust, I expect the Rockets to be able to adjust. I expect them to shoot the basketball better. Also, I expect them from on the defensive end, because they've been defending the Warriors good, but they're not finishing the possession. Yep. Coaches always tell you, finish the possession. And from a defensive standpoint, when you have finished the possession is not when you contest a shot, not when you help someone else, not out. No. It's when you secure the rebound. And the Warriors dominated the offensive glass in game number 2. Huge difference in the game. You can't give this type of Warriors team all those second chance points and take care of the basketball. Be more careful with the basketball. 18 turnovers in game number 2. If they were able to get better in those 2 areas, that's the way the Rockets are able to get back in this series and get their first win against the Warriors.
Finish the possession. I'm going to add one other note to it. How about start the possession defensively? 5 times in this game, game 2, the Rockets scored, and the Warriors got a transition layup.
Oh, yeah, very surprising,
Which is just inexcusable. To not get back on defense after a make in a game of that magnitude, just inexcusable. So if they'd have done any of those 3 things better in game number 2, they could have won. If they would have done 2 of those 3 things better, they would have won. If they'd have done all 3 things better, they'd have won easily, which is not kick the ball around the court as far as turnovers go in the first quarter in particular, offensive rebound in the first quarter in particular, and get back on defense after makes. It was Alfonso McKinney, Andre Iguodala getting dunks after a Harden layup, after when Harden was attacking. So I think what happened in that regard was the Rockets are so used to shooting threes, Harden shooting threes, that when Harden goes to the bucket, when the possession ends at the bucket, the guy who's usually the first man back in Harden,
your point guard,
he's 98 feet from his opposing rim. Other guys got to get back. But here's where the Rockets are at. They've got to be, even though they're down 0-2, thrilled with how they're defending Steph and Klay. Steph is 11 of 28 in this series. 6 of 23 from 3. Klay is 13 of 31 in this series, 5 of 14 from 3. Durant's scoring at a high volume, but he's doing it around 42%, 43% from the field. The Rockets will deal with that. It is the things Chris mentioned and the fact that the Rockets haven't gotten the contributions they need from the others, from the people not named James Harden, to steal one of these 2 games. You said game 3 can be the most interesting game. It also can end the series. Because if you fall down 0-3, no one in NBA history has come back from down 0-3, and you're certainly not going to come back from down 0-3 against the 2-time defending champ.
One of the things you've been talking about is getting CP3, getting Chris Paul back into it. We want more from him, not just 15 points, 20, maybe even 25, maybe even 30. What does D'Antoni do now back in Houston to get not only him, but also Capella back involved?
Yeah, I think that Chris Paul, I think that they'll have a certain game plan for him. But, man, what you see in these playoffs is the guys that are going to come out and be aggressive. Game number 1, what do we have in Philadelphia? Man, the Jimmy Butler disappearance. Game number 2, Jimmy Butler, they ran some sets for him. And these guys that have all this experience, you expect them to be more aggressive. Chris Paul's whole resume depends on him trying to get a championship. It would top off a guy that's had a great career.
He's got everything else you could want.
So I expect him to get double digits in shots. I expect him to continue to defend at a high end, to help Harden, take some of that burden on the offensive end. And Capella, now listen, Nick, I didn't think that they should sign him to the type of contract, but for the type of money that he is making, he's got to be a difference maker. If the Warriors are going to play the Hampton Five, you have to be able to pound it into him, and not just to shoot it, but sometimes throw it into him so he can kick it back out for another open. Now, I know a lot of people would be like, man, I watched the game, and the Warriors forced a lot of turnovers because they knew they were trying to go to Capella. They could read, they were reading the lobs, and they played them great. And they played them well. So in game number 3, you know, the number one thing that I want to see is these role players, Chris Paul and Capella. What is the coaching staff going to do to engage them to get them more involved in the offense?
There's something important I want to say about Chris Paul. For that, though, let's stay on the Capella point for a second. What do you think about them putting Austin Rivers in the starting lineup and going small versus small, saying your Hamptons Five is killing us? We thought we had an edge with Capella against it. Clearly you don't. This is desperation time. Rivers has been the best reserve and just saying, hey, we'll go even smaller against your small people. We'll have PJ Tucker as our center, essentially. Do you think that's something we might see Saturday night?
This NBA is such a game of matchups, and they do so much switching. So many offensive sets are predicated on, we're going to keep picking until we get the guy that we want to go one-on-one with. Yeah. And you would think there would be no NBA player or executive would say, you know something, you need to put Austin Rivers in, and you'll be better defensively than having Capella. But with the matchups,
it might be the case.
It might be the case. That might be the move that changes this series.
It could be the wrinkle to where Capella's only on the court when Kayvon Looney's on the court, or if Bogut gets in the rotation, where they only gets in there when they have a true center out there for Golden State. But on Chris Paul, Chris Paul has always believed he's better than Steph. He has created a rivalry there, even though Steph has clearly ascended well past Chris Paul. Chris Paul won't believe it, won't accept it. Chris Paul has been building towards these 2 postseason series, last year against the Warriors, this year against the Warriors. Last year, he was not able to close it out. If he was healthy, I think the Rockets would have closed it out. We'd be talking about Chris Paul differently. We'd be talking about him as a champion, assuming they would have gone on to beat LeBron and the Cavs. Chris Paul needs to have a 30-point game. Doesn't exist for him. I looked it up this morning. He cracked 30 once all year. One time all year did Chris Paul crack 30. Only 5 times all year did he even score 25. But he can do what he did against Utah 2 weeks ago. 23, 8, 7, 2 blocks, 5 steals, imprint all over the game. Final game of the regular season, the Rockets end up losing at the buzzer, but was important for seeding. 24, 8, and 6 in a matchup against Russ. Chris Paul has it in him to be great defensively, be efficient offensively, and to make an impact on the game like that. He's not going to give you 35. He hasn't at any point all year, but you need one of those 24 points, 7 rebounds, 9 assists, a few steals, knock Steph to the ground a few times performances if the Rockets are going to get this series back to, or get it to 2-1.
There's a number of adjustments that have to be made. Chris Paul's going to have his imprint on the game, on all facets of the game. But for the Warriors, with Draymond playing the way that he's playing, Draymond averaged 7 points during the regular season, averaging 12, 8, and 7 during the postseason, playing with the type of energy that made him an all-star, all-defensive team, while he was a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. But the most valuable player right now, I said, with all the Warriors, is Andre Iguodala. What he is doing, shooting 41% on open threes. People were giving him shots, daring him to be able to shoot. And when he's guarding Harden, which he is a lot, Harden shooting less than 28%. Iggy has found the fountain of youth from some type of, I don't know where he got it, where he drank it. It was in a powder form, Jenna, because I know Jenna has an interest in that. But when you when you have the type of impact that he's had on the game, 19 dunks, Nick.
And see, remember,
leading the NBA in the playoffs.
Last year, when the Rockets went from down 2-1 to up 3-2, Andre Iguodala was not playing. Andre Iguodala was injured. And so that was a factor that the Rockets didn't have to deal with a fully functional. In fact, he missed some games in that series. Andre Iguodala last year, he has been an enormous factor in the series this year.
All right, we got to take a break. Coming up, more on my interest in powdered drinks. Also, has Kevin Durant proven he's the best in the world? That's next on FS1. You can always check us out on the Fox Sports channel on Sirius XM. We'll be right back.